volcanics in general have always been thought to be some kind of burn deck, and rightfully so. I mean, look what it does. It's what do we really associate this deck with? What do we usually think of as the main strategy for this deck? The rank 4 aspect, that doesn't really do much for it. I mean, you need a specific engine in order to pull that off, but that's usually like the number 2 thing that you think of when it comes to volcanics. But the number 1 thing, obviously, is the volcanic scattershot nuke effect. And so what better way to capitalize that than to turn the entire deck as a burn deck? And that's what I figured would be the best route to take this deck. So without further ado, let's get started. So this deck doesn't really have that much changes going for itself. I mean, right now all it's got going for obviously is the standard 3 volcanic rockets, as well as the triple volcanic shells. I'm seeing a lot of people either dump this or put this at 2. To each their own, I guess. To me, I'm gonna be sticking with the 3. I don't really agree with keeping it at 2 or removing it altogether. I mean, how else are you gonna? Yeah, the scattershot nuke is the main thing, but how are you gonna draw into your cards anyway? Especially with Upstart going to 1, that really hurts. So speaking of hurting, there's also 3 scattershots. There's really no other way to keep explaining this one. I mean, it's self-explanatory there. It's the main thing of the deck, the main strategy. And yeah, 1500 to the face while basically being a Regeki in monster form. What more could you want? And one of the ways that could really help it out is just running the 1 Volcanic Doomfire. Like, you can either run this or you can remove it altogether. This is basically the trump card, and I don't mind running it at 1. It's still good for what it is. 3K beater that's relatively easy to bring out. Also, if you can't really bring it out or you don't really want to use it, it's more food for Blaze Accelerator. So I'm really not complaining about that whatsoever. It's not really the end of the monster count lineup. We're still running the 2 Royal Firestorm guards. Um, I keep the 3rd one around just in case. You never know when I might need it again, or if Konami decides to make more volcanic cards. I mean, they're focusing on a lot of old archetypes thanks to Arc 5, so I'm not going to rule out the possibility. And so, in order to help out with the rank 4 aspect, in order to start the plays anyway, we're running 3 Heroic Champion Assault Halberd. It's a Photon Thrasher, although I might remove this one altogether and just replace him with Thrashers. But the reason why I'm still holding on to Halberd here is because it's also a Piercer and it's also a Searcher. So it still helps out in different ways that Thrasher doesn't. So there's really no debate. I mean, there is if you want to, but to me, there's no debate. Like, this one's got to be the better one over Thrasher. Thrasher's just a beater and doesn't like playing with others. But what might tempt me into running Thrasher is, in order to help it out, is also the Perform H Hat Trigger. There really is no Clownblade engine here. I mean, I'm done with Clownblade as far as I'm concerned, or as far as anyone else is concerned. So it already it does its job. Nowadays with this meta and this format, whatever, we already spam the hell out of every field anyway. So there's always going to be at least 2 or more monsters on the field, and this is going to be relatively easy to summon. So there's really nothing else that can be said about that. And I'm also running 2 Veilers because Veiler's Bay. And I'll get more on that as we go on. So let's just get the spells out of the way really quick, because there's really not much there. It's just the playset of Twin Twisters because, sometimes I just want to get that Blaze Accelerator out of the way, and the Foolish Burial in order to dump Volcanic Shell in order to start that, and the 1 Regeki, because I love Regeki. Alright, moving on to the traps. Obviously, we're running 3 Blaze Accelerator reloads. You can't go wrong with that. And also, what I was talking about earlier about the burn aspect, this is kind of the reason why, because I'm also running a playset of Blazing Mirror Force, the 2 Ojama Trios, and the 2 Ceasefires in order to push for more effect damage after or before Scattershot. So I really like the aspect of what's going on over here because, you know, the burn aspect is a lot of fun. It's a really trollsy deck that I really just miss. You know, remember my old Medion burn deck that I just couldn't get enough of? Well, this is somewhat of a revival on that, except, you know, minus Medion. But aside from that, like, you know, unlike the Medion burn deck, this one is actually more consistent, and I really like it to a degree. What I'm really not liking most of is because of shit like, you know, Ring of Destruction and Solemn Warning. Now, aside from the last couple cards that I run here in the main deck, you know, Bottomless, Tragic Trap Hole Nightmare, and Vanity's Emptiness, these two kind of hurt the deck a little bit more because you're already paying enough life points, but also remember Blazing Mirror Force, um, that affects you too. So, and the reason, going back to Valor, is because I would, but I choose not to, run Solemn Strikes. You know, I'm already paying 2,000 plus a number of more damage here, and with Blazing Mirror Force, you know, that tends to vary during the game. I really don't want to pay too much life points because you're already giving up enough life points with this deck as it is, and before you know it, you'll be dead before your opponent. So I like to keep it where it's at right now. So if anyone's wondering where the hell are the strikes, well, I have strikes, but just not in this deck. I don't think it needs it. It could really benefit off of it, but honestly, when you really think about it, and also I play tested this out before, I would die quickly. I would die way too quickly. So it's almost not worth it, but it will be a lot of fun to try out. Now, ending off with the extra deck, I really like this one. Like, when Royal Firestorm Guards just isn't cutting it out, just isn't cutting it. I'm sorry, I really can't speak today. If that's just not working, then you know you got the one Daigusto Emerald. It's fine for what it is. It's also the reason why I don't have the third one, the third Royal Guards with me right now. This is basically the third one, so we'll just keep it at that for the time being. But you know, whatever happens, happens. Next, we're running Utopia in his new form because it is a staple now, and I'm really liking it. It really helps out the games, you know, 5k beater. Heartland Draco because he's obligatory in this deck, and as well as me. Diamond Crab King, Giant Hand, Dark Rebellion, Cowboy, Castell, Samurai, Rafflesia, another Emerald, Black Ship, Flame Vixen, which is really underrated in this deck. I took her out for a while and put her right back in. I don't know why I took it out in the first place. And 101 because he still deserves some love. Alright guys, so that just about does it for my Volcanic Burn deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you guys have any ideas, feel free to let me know in the comment section below, or you can just message me on Facebook. And I'll see you guys later. Adios.